Hello, my friends. I told you I would get you a video, and so here I am in my van. I had to take my son to ref a soccer game, so I've got the dog sitting right out there, and I thought I'll take care of this and see if I can do it for you. And so we're going to talk about Chapter 13, and I'm going to do my best to keep it fairly short for you. All right? There we go. There are two. Name them two, or see them. I probably need to move myself out of the way, right? There we go. I'll put myself down over there. Two critical purposes, two reasons, the very most important reasons that we conduct evaluation. The first is assessing and improving the quality. So in other words, you evaluate yourself, the program planners. And this is a formative in the formation of the program, right? Second is to determine how effective the program is. So in other words, you're looking at your goals, your objectives, and how well you did those things. So that evaluates them, the priority population, or it's a summary of what happened, right? It's a summative evaluation. If you must know that it is probably one of the most major, most important area of responsibility for a health education specialist, conducting evaluation and research. That number 4 on the areas of responsibility, mucho importante, mi amigos. All right, let's talk a little bit about terminology. Evaluation is really just the process of determining the value or worth of your program and looking at different components of it and if they meet criteria and standards of acceptability. We talked about the values and benefits, right, and how it meets standards of your decision makers. That's one of the reasons why you do evaluation. Second reason is just to reflect, to see what went well. How did this compare to other things? And then, like I said, it's a comparison. You can compare it to other programs and against standards of acceptability. Standards of acceptability are just the minimum levels of performance, something that's that very bare minimum. We want everyone in our class to get at least a C this semester. We want most of our people to get this very bottom level, and that obviously was at the top of my head, but a bottom level. Typically, these things are expressed in relationship to what the decision makers want, right? Their mandates of these regulating agencies, their health statuses, the values in a specific community, their standards for these groups, norms of previous programs, and then comparisons between the control group and an experimental group. All right? So when we talk about different approaches, remember we talked about the two critical purposes, how one is formative and one is summative. Those are the two approaches. Formative or process evaluation, they're often used simultaneously, synonymously, if I could read, right? And then summative evaluation is the after. It's kind of like the impact and outcome evaluation. So if we go back and we look at the objectives, right? There's process objectives that we write for ourselves. There's impact objectives that we write for the priority population, that they have something that happens immediately. And then there's outcome objectives, and that's something that happens down the road, all right? So formation, the stuff that comes before, is all about the process, right? The process of developing it, the process all the way through implementation. That evaluates ourselves to see if we can improve the quality of the program. The summary at the end, right? The summary is at the end. That's a summative evaluation that says, did it really do what it was said it was going to do? Did it make the changes, the goals and objectives that we wanted to see changed? So approach really just refers to that process of improving quality. So let's talk about a little bit about formative evaluation. Really, you're looking at the overall quality of the program, and you really want to enhance it or make it better before or in the middle of implementation. You want to make sure you've kind of worked out the kinks, okay? So process elimination is looking at that implementation process, the act of implementing it, to see how you're doing. So if those of you who are visual, like myself, if we look up here, when we start the planning, remember you're working on your timetable right now? If you start the planning, you'll see all these things that you're doing all the way up until the start of implementation. This part right here is even before you ever start implementation. And you need to be able to evaluate, how did we do? Process objectives, right? And so once you start implementation, you have to see, hey, how did I do? How did we do? And you can ask a bunch of different people, whether you ask people that are in your program or people that are working with you. At the end of this semester, I'm going to ask you to do a course evaluation. Part of it is the course, right? How did it work? How did it do? Was it laid out well? I asked you specifically in a Google form, and you told me, these are the things we don't want to do anymore. And so I'm actually going to send out an email and say, you know what, let's not do those anymore, because that's probably not a wise thing. And I know there's only this much left in the semester, but evaluation. And then let's talk a little bit about summative evaluation. Summative evaluation is at the end, right? You're going to assess the effectiveness of the intervention. Did you meet your goals and objectives? Did you change, right? Awareness, attitudes, knowledge, behavior. And then there's the impact and outcome, right? Not and then. These are called. So knowledge, skills, and attitudes are all about what happens immediately. Outcome is diseases and the big things at the end. You guys are looking at COVID. That's not going to end today, or even after your program is done. It's going to take some time, but implementing your program will change awareness, attitudes, knowledge, and skills so that in the long run it changes the disease or changes the level of the disease. If we add the picture, summative, right? You've implemented it, and after you're all done implementing it, there's your summative evaluation, which is comprised of impact and outcome. Please remember, process objectives. Who do you write them for? Yourself. So process evaluation is evaluating yourself and your program. And then impact and outcome objectives are writing them for them, for the priority population. Thus, you will also evaluate your impact and outcome. And I'm back. Believe it or not, I am now at my house. Games got over and back I am. All right, let's move on. What is the purpose of evaluation? Remember, the twofold, meaning that, one, we evaluate ourselves, right? And the program itself. Two, we evaluate the priority population and see how effective it was. Basically, did we achieve the objectives? Can we improve implementation? Can we provide accountability to our stakeholders? Increase support for different initiatives, right? That's why we will do evaluation. If the government wants to use different things. So take, for instance, me. I am an evaluator for the Arkansas Tobacco Settlement Commission. So Arkansas gave some tobacco settlement money, or I'm not even sure who did it, but it's through the Tobacco Settlement Commission, and it gave Arkansas millions of dollars so that we could provide programming that helps people to lower heart disease and smoking and all of those things. Well, I'm an evaluator for that. So I go through and I look at their standards and what they want to have happen. We create these objectives. We create these goals, these indicators that say, if we can do this, and then they create these programs and I evaluate to see. Now, remember, I'm going to bring that up again. What type of evaluator am I? And so there's these initiatives and we're creating support, right? This Tobacco Settlement Initiative, and here I do it for the Minority Health Initiative or the Arkansas Minority Health Commission. Anyway, going on, it's important to note that really the very biggest part, the most true success is when we link our program to our goals and objectives being met or achieved. So if we look at formative evaluation, it's really the quality of the program, right? I'm not going to belabor this. It's 10 minutes already. It quantifies what was done, when, where, and how it was done, who was reached, how they participated. And so how do you collect that kind of data and then give it to the stakeholders so they know that you plan to improve your program? A lot of it is asking the program participants, what would they rather have? Like in the Google form that I sent you, what did you like? What did you not like? How could I improve that? That's part of formative evaluation. It begins before implementation even starts. With the process evaluation, you're looking back on that implementation process. All right? Your main objectives is to describe some things. Did you follow your plan and all the protocols you had closely? How successful were you in recruiting and getting priority population? Oh, we only had 2 people. Well, we probably need to do better on it next time. There's 15 different elements, and I am not going to go over all of them. But you need to be able to justify that to your stakeholders and to your decision makers that your program is needed. There needs to be evidence that it's evidence-based, right? Like we use a theory, the capacity, the extent to which professionals have adequate knowledge, skills, and abilities to decide. So how capable are we of developing and implementing this program? What are our resources? What are the resources that are needed, right? Cost identification, a cost-benefit analysis, a cost-effectiveness analysis, the degree to which a program is adapted to the needs, right? Is it customer-oriented? Multiplicity, is there multiple components that you can build into it, right? So if we were to put all of our programs into one program, we'd have hygiene and mental health and masks. Is there a support piece built in? Have you provided adequate inclusion for the different types of people, right? Accountability. Are you accountable to someone so you're actually fulfilling your responsibilities? Look at in your groups. Are each one of your group members doing the things that you're supposed to? Adjustment. Can the programs adjust? Can you recruit? How far is your reach? What is the response rate? How much interaction, the quality of the interaction? How much satisfaction do your participants have? So how do you do this? A multiple number, a variety, a plethora, right? There's focus groups and surveys, interviews that are in-depth, informal interviews, key informant interview, all these different things that you can say, let's look at our Gantt chart, at our timeline. Did we do the things that we were supposed to do? Now, summative evaluation. You're looking at formative and process, right? And that's so critical. But then you have to do the summative. Really, did you find your goals and objectives and meet them? Impact and outcome. So there's your evaluation design. And what types of design will you have? Because who is going to receive these results? Probably the decision makers. How are they going to be delivered? Executive summary, a big paper, a table. And then there's different stakeholders, and they may want different questions answered. And so there's going to be different. I asked you to have, 4 different objectives? If you look at all the stakeholders, you could have many objectives. You need to make sure that you're planning for the evaluation, and you'll see how the objectives and the evaluation match. All right, so I'd like you to go through these steps. It's on the PowerPoint in Blackboard of how you will evaluate, and then go through the whole process, the framework of engaging stakeholders and describing the program to them, and then focusing your evaluation design, gathering the evidence, justifying your conclusions, and then ensuring that you can share them and that they can be used, right? Engaging stakeholders, they're the ones that are involved in the operations. Also, those who are served and affected. Describe the program. Where's your frame of reference? What are your mission statement, goals, and objectives? This is where you can use your logic model. Focusing that evaluation design. Make sure you're looking at the interests of the stakeholders and identify the reason that you're evaluating it that way and how it's going to be used. Then you're going to gather credible evidence. How will you do that? There's two different designs. Quantitative designs deals with numbers. It's all about numbers. We talked about how many chairs are in room 325. Well, there's a lot more than can be used. So really, more like 50 people can be housed in that room. Qualitative is going to deal with words and the stories. Well, why are there the X's? So you can interview people and do a focus group, how they feel about those things. Quantitative data says this is how many numbers can be there, how many students can fit in that classroom. Qualitative says, let me tell you why it's this way. Quantitative really is deductive reasoning, right? So it's applying this principle to your case, whereas qualitative is more inductive. It examines the case and then it forms a principle, and you can use both, right? Qualitative is good for programs that emphasize individual outcomes. Quantitative is more suited towards programs that are super well defined and they're just and want to know all the numbers. You don't always have to choose just one method. It can be super advantageous to combine them and use them to create a better program. Different methods you can use, and you justify your conclusions, give recommendations, and then figure out the needs of each group so you can that they can use and disseminate different results that they need to. There's always problems, though. People fail to plan for evaluation. They don't have enough resources to do it. There's restrictions. The effects are hard to detect. They're small and slow in coming, and then they don't last. You haven't allocated enough time for evaluation. Your money has run out. There's restrictions. There's a bunch of different things that are the problems and the barriers, but the best thing you can do is plan for evaluation. As long as you're planning for it and you've built it in, then it will happen. Reflecting on your goals and objectives, making sure you have that baseline data so you can see if there's been an improvement. Make sure you're ethical in everything you do. Never cause any mental, emotional, or physical harm. Participants should always be informed of everything. The purpose of your study, the purpose of your program, any potential risks, and give consent. No individual should ever have their personal information revealed. And when it's appropriate, you need to go through the IRB or the Institutional Review Boards. Now, internal evaluation versus external evaluation. And there's advantages and disadvantages to both. The advantages, you can read them. The disadvantages is maybe there's an evaluator bias, conflict of interest. If the Minority Health Initiative evaluated their own programs, they'd be a lot more familiar with them. They'd know who was making the decisions, but they also might be more biased. It's going to be a lot less expensive because paying me to do it is more expensive, but it's a lot more objective. There's a lot less bias, all right? So what is evaluation? It's reflecting. It's the critical purposes are making sure you evaluate us, the formative evaluation, where we can improve the program. Then we evaluate them, the summative evaluation, to see the effectiveness, all right? What's the purpose of process or formative? You got it? Yes, you do. I knew you would. It's to improve the quality of the program. What's the purpose of summative, impact, or outcome evaluation? To see how effective it was. All right, see you on Tuesday.